Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Where are we up to? It's only just started and it's already feeling a bit out of control. Oh, Craig, Sydney underwater. That sounds awful. Uh, at least you've got some Chardonnay to keep you dry. Peter and Karen, lovely to see you. I'm very pleased. No, Polly. Polly wants my snacks. I've got snacks tonight. They're not very good. They're corn rice crackers and some sweet chili sauce and some cream cheese. Anyway, I have snacks. It's very exciting. Peter and Karen just sent me a photo of their spring rolls, which I'm having spring roll envy now. I nearly suggested spring rolls and then I thought, oh no. So I'm glad that some of you just did it. Anyway, Rob and Deb. Oh, it's Rob. Hello. How are you? I think Deb's just texted me to say she can't make it, I think. That's all. Anyway, maybe they'll be watching in from elsewhere. Hello, Cotty and John. Lovely to see you. Kay, great to see you. Craig, I haven't had a chance to look at the weather. So is it just raining really hard? What's going on? Crazy story. Hello, who else is there? Goodness, I'm like all in a tiz. Been running around doing winemaking and things. Hello, Matt. How you going? Sarah, Tricks, and all the tricks. Hello. And Kevin and Emily, how are you? Lovely to see you guys. Cream cheese and sweet chili. Excellent work. Hello, Anne. How you doing? Hello, James. Welcome back. Good to see you. How's sunny Queensland? Michael, yes. Brisbane also underwater. Goodness me. You stop looking at the news for a couple of days and all hell breaks loose. I hope you guys are all safe and not too wet. Now, it's really interesting. Kay's gone with the Philly with sweet chili sauce, Gruyere, tasty cheddar, good, excellent. Pad Thai. The Pad Thai might be a bit of a challenge for the wine, but I'll be really interested to see how it goes. Oh, Joan and Karen, hello, Craig. Raining constantly for a week. Well, it's been the opposite here. It's very warm and dry. And we started picking grapes on Friday. And we picked some more grapes yesterday. And we're picking some more grapes tomorrow. And today we de-stemmed some Robinson Pinot Noir, Able clone and Pommard clone, which was lovely, looking beautiful, delicious flavours and tiny quantities though, so that's a bit of a tip for 2022. G'day, Shell and Andrew, how you going? Slack, so pick up Thai. Ooh. G'day, Sharpie and Rod. Good to see you. Hello, Jeff. Where are you today? Did you get to Kunora? Jeff was going on an adventure. You don't have to tell us, Jeff. You can pretend you could be at home. You never know. Hello, Paul and Roz. Lovely to see you. Yes, Shell, I know. I went down the Thai chili sauce route for a little bit of a challenge to our palates. I'm not sure if it's going to be delicious or terrible, but I thought it would be a really good conversation. So I possibly should have been more clear in my email on Tuesday. But anyway, I reckon this wine might be able to cope with Pad Thai depending on how spicy it is. But if not, but do make sure that you've got plenty of water. Rod and I caught up earlier this week. Have you recovered? Is your palate okay now? No, it's hard work, wasn't it? Rod's doing a little wine course with me, which is fun. And we talked about drinking lots of water. Polly's got overexcited. We've just come back from the walk and she's totally over the top. Anyway, hopefully she's not too noisy for you to not be able to hear me. So, yes, we talked about drinking water and how important it is to keep drinking water while you're tasting, to keep our bodies hydrated and our palates working well and our little brains hydrated. So all of that stuff, and also dealing with chili if you've got a bit too much chili in your food for the wine. Oh, speaking of wine, we probably should get on to, that's good. There were 9 of you when we started and there's quite a few more now. So lovely to see see you all logging in. Road trips are ace. So I hope, Jeff, you're having a good one. Chardonnay tonight, Robinson Chardonnay. So before we start on the food, and I know some of you probably already are starving. Hopefully you haven't started on the chili yet anyway. So if you've got some cheese, some crackers, whatever, feel free to have a bit of a nibble. But hold off on the chili because we want to sort of do this in a staged way. I'm using a Pinot glass again. John's taken the chili theme with a couple of Ottolenghi recipes with chili. Absolutely, it will be interesting. Robinson Vineyard 2019. Now, just a little, actually, couple of little alerts to you guys. Not only is this wine getting quite low in quantities in the warehouse, in the cellar door. Hello, Alison. Lovely to see you. Andrew as well. Shell, I know it's a bit too bossy of me to be trying to impose rules on you. No, do what you like. It's fine. So yes, stocks of the 2019 Robinson Chardonnay are getting a little bit low. So if you enjoy this wine tonight and you want more, don't leave it too long to order it. And the other wine that we're about to sell out of is that delicious Pinot Gris on skins that we had last week. So I meant to put that in the email, but I've been running around like a headless chook for too much of this week. So I will try and send out an email to all of the mailing list early next week about that. But heads up for you guys, Pinot Gris on skins 2020 is pretty much nearly all sold out, and I reckon we've got maybe a week's worth of stock, maybe a little bit longer. But yes, if you want some of that, grab it. The 2021 will be released almost immediately, and we'll be tasting that together, drinking that together sometime in the future on a Thursday night at 6 o'clock. Hello, Zach, Jack, Hannah and Toby. How you going? Let me get this bottle open. Too much talk, not enough drinking. That's not very responsible of me. Not enough tasting. Let's get some wine in the glass anyway. And I think last week I said that it was appropriate that we were drinking Robinson Chardonnay because we were picking Robinson Chardonnay last Friday, and I got it wrong. Jeremy fixed me up. I've got a little thing on my screen. Hang on. It's just I had like a dot on my nose, and it was really annoying me. So Jeremy corrected me and reminded me that it was Pinot Noir that we picked last Friday. So people who want to know what we picked first, this year it was Robinson Pinot Noir. We have picked some. Well, we'll be picking some Chardonnay by the end of this week, and I think we're picking it tomorrow. So we'll be pressing that probably on Saturday. Hello, Sue and Daryl. Lovely to see you. We just had a lovely walk with your son and your big blue dog, so that was fun. All right, wine in glass. I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite ready for this Chardonnay tonight. And I only put it in the fridge about an hour ago, so it's probably perfect temperature. Maybe it could be a little bit colder. Anyway, give it a little swirl. So 2019, remembering that 2019 was, let me cast my mind back. 2019 was a really nice vintage, small. It was a little bit like this year that we had a bit of difficulty during flowering and fruit set. So we got quite small crops. There was a bit of hen and chicken. So the French call that mille vendange, which is a great word, but I quite like hen and chicken because it's very descriptive. What it means is big and little berries on the same bunch. And the trick with that is that the little berries ripen faster than the big berries. And so then it's hard to work out, everything's buzzing at me at the moment. Then it's hard to work out when is the right time to pick, because do you pick when the little berries are perfectly ripe, or do you pick when the big berries are perfectly ripe? And the answer obviously is you have to pick somewhere in between. So the little berries will be a little bit overripe and the big berries will be a little bit underripe, and hopefully that all evens it out in the end. So 2019 Robinson Chardonnay. We were slightly surprised but delighted with this wine because of that little issue with the big and little berries. We picked it quite early, but it was already quite ripe because it had more of the little berries and they were quite ripe. So it's quite an expressive Robinson Chardonnay. The Robinson Chardonnay for me always has it always has a bit of elegance and restraint. And I think what Craig's just said, that first taste it's quite sedate and delicate, not confident it's going to stand up to the strong flavours. And I think that's right, Craig. I think that's why maybe I should have been more insistent that the Thai chili sauce was kind of a side trial thing. But anyway, that's okay. Hopefully you've got some things that are some things that are not doused in chili sauce, as well as the chili sauce things. But it will open up as well. All right, let's have a little smell and a little taste. But for Robinson, I know that it's quite restrained at the moment, but for a Robinson Chardonnay of this age, it's actually quite vibrant and buoyant and quite forward in its fruit expression. So that's why I was thinking that it could cope with the sweetness of. The reason I said sweet chili sauce rather than just chili sauce is that you kind of need that sweetness and the Thai chili sauce thing going on. Oh, Amanda, hi, welcome. Emily's sister Amanda's just joined us for her first Drinks with Kate experience. So welcome, Amanda. How lovely to have you on board. Cheers. I hope you've got your wine in your glass. I'm about to smell it and taste it. I talk a lot before I get to actually taste it, so bear with me. On the nose, it does have that lovely lemon fruit, and a little bit of white peach. But for me, this Robinson Chardonnay's always had that little kind of green pineapple exotic kind of character to it, which I think is a reflection of that riper fruit from 2019. And I think that the Robinson, the style of the Robinson fruit has that finesse and lovely line of acid that kind of pulls it all together so that it doesn't get all pineapple, like canned pineapple or pineapple juice or anything like that. It's just that really tangy green pineapple or green, even green papaya that you get in Thai salads. See where I'm going with this? I do have slightly circuitous route to why I've suggested the food that I've suggested. So let's have a taste. And again, on the palate, just with no food, just the wine, it's got this really lovely vibrancy of fruit, and it's got this juicy sort of green mango, green papaya, green pineapple thing going on. It is shell. It's quite like a splice ice cream. It's got this kind of creamy texture to it. It's got that little pine lime kind of thing. So yeah, green pineapple, lime and lemon fruit. It's really tangy, and it's a really great summer wine, I think, as a result. It's that combination of sort of tangy citrus and tropical fruit. And a lot of wines, you don't talk about citrus fruit and tropical fruit being together. And I think because people, particularly in Australia, people get really kind of paranoid about their Chardonnay tasting tropical because we had so many. Yeah, I reckon, Craig, probably the warming up will help. Alison, I said white peach. You're absolutely right, white peach, in very beautiful white peach perfumes. And as it warms up, and as I say, I put mine in the fridge an hour ago, so it's kind of chilled it a bit, but not too much. And it's also a bit humid here today, and it's warming up quite quickly. Get some air in it, Craig, give it a swirl, and even if you need to put your hands on it just to warm it up a little bit, that will probably help. It's really interesting as well. In different weather, wine tastes differently. And I find when it's humid and rainy, which I'm imagining that it's probably a bit warm and humid in Brisbane and Sydney, not cold and rainy like it would be here if it was raining, it does suppress some of the fruit of wine. So depending on where you are and what the barometer's doing and what the climate's doing, then your wine flavour profile is going to be affected by all of those things. So it's an extra challenge to take on board. Oh, hello, Nareem and Keely. How you going? You got the spice taste. Yep. I reckon it's really interesting, and I can just smell my chili sauce in the background, and I think that little kind of tangy chili kind of note is tempting me to give this a go. So before I do go into the food and wine matching, and you guys, now that you've tasted the wine by itself, feel free to have a little bit of an experiment. I just wanted to, yes, Michael, also, if there's all this kind of, we've got the biodynamic calendar, which will suggest if it's a root day or a fruit day or a flower day will have an effect on it. But that should be the same all across Australia. And I think it's probably the same worldwide, isn't it, the biodynamic calendar? I'm not really sure. But I've got an app on my phone. It's called When Wine. And it's telling me that it's not a good day for wine today. It's a leaf day. It's a leaf day right now, and it doesn't tell me when it's going to stop being a leaf day. Let me have a look at the. Oh yes, on yesterday was a good day for wine. We should have done this yesterday, apparently. Luckily, our wine can handle leaf days and root days, but it is quite interesting when you taste the same wine over and over again, different days. I agree, Michael. Michael and Craig, you guys are like in stereo. Every day is a good day for wine. James, I think you're right. I think this wine's looking jolly delicious today. I'm getting now little hints of cumin and coriander on the nose of this wine, and a little bit of ginger as well. Kay, I think you and I are honing in on that little spicy note, which was the other reason that I thought this would be quite fun to have a play with some sweet chili sauce with this wine, because it's unusually expressive for a young Robinson Vineyard wine. The 2019 is current release. We released it back in September last year. That was a slightly early release compared to in the past we've released our single vineyard Chardonnays in sort of October, November, and we just thought last year life was so miserable that we needed some fun, so we released. Really, honestly, we needed something to look forward to, so we made the release of the single vineyard Chardonnay something to look forward to early. I think the wine is looking even better now than it did when we released it last year. It's kind of opening up and it's developing some really lovely richness. Okay, I'm glad to hear it's fabulous with your pad thai. Before I start talking about matching wine with chili and what the pitfalls and how it can be successful, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this wine's made, and that's going to become evident why I'm doing that first as the conversation continues. Gosh, I'm sounding very formal tonight, aren't I? I must have my wine making and teacher hat on for this week. So all of our Chardonnays we make in the same way. So that's easy. This wine is fruit 100% from the Robinson Vineyard. It's a couple of clones that we do now have at Moorooduc, but have only just started producing. So when we talk about clones, it all gets a bit technical. And if you've not heard of the whole clonal thing before, if you're new to this, then really what we're talking about is very slight differences in the flavour profile of different Chardonnay vines, for example, or different Pinot Noir vines, because they've come originally from different vineyards and they've been selected for the flavour profile that they get. So we talk a lot in the wine industry about Pinot clones, and clones of different clones of Chardonnay has become more of interest to grape growers and winemakers and wine geeks like me in recent years. So the clones that we've got here in this wine are 95 and 96, and that doesn't really tell you anything. It's just they're two clones that came relatively recently in the last couple of decades, I think, from Dijon University in France, and they give us a little bit more savouriness, and they give us a little bit more complexity, and we think they give us that lovely kind of lifted floral note and that beautiful acid line when you pick them at the right time. And I think that wine has got beautiful acidity. Now, the acidity in this wine could be one of the things in a normal year that would really struggle with the chili, but because there's so much ripe fruit and generosity in the wine, I think that it could cope quite nicely. And again, when you think about Thai food, then chili is only one part of the equation. You've got spice, you've got sweetness, and so we've got our sweet chili sauce, which has got spice and sweetness. You've got sourness from lime juice often, or rice wine vinegar. And rice wine vinegar and soy was one of the other suggestions that I made for you. And saltiness is also important. So those flavors that sort of make up in combination need to be balanced perfectly in Thai food. And we talk a lot about perfect balance in our wines as well. So again, if you get really great Thai food, often the chili is going to be incredibly fiery, but you've also got lots of acid and lots of sweetness and lots of saltiness to balance it. And so the flavor explosion is enormous. And so it is a bit of a challenge to a wine that might be a little bit elegant or complex, because all of those flavors sort of piled on top of each other in Thai food are wonderful, but they're not very subtle. As I said to you before, I think this is one of the less subtle Robinson Chardonnays that we've made. I think it's very joyous and forward and vibrant in its fruit expression. Michael, that's interesting. You think it's quite low in acidity, because it's got really good acid. It's just that the acid's really nicely balanced with the fruit and the and the alcohol, and so the acid is there, but it's not sticking out in the way that a lot of young Chardonnays from people who really kind of worship at the altar of acid in Australia now get those wines that are just sort of really, the strong line of acid sticks out on top of the wine and doesn't integrate into the wine. Whereas this wine has plenty of acid, but it's got really good fruit concentration, good alcohol weight. It's 13% alcohol, which is quite high for the Robinson. Usually the Robinson's kind of 12 and a half. And that creaminess is as a result of a malolactic fermentation, but because we only had small amounts of malic acid in the wine to start off with, then that conversion is quite small, because there's only a little bit of malic acid ends up with only a little bit of lactic acid in the final wine, which does give you that creaminess. But the creaminess also comes from a bit of time on lees in barrel. So it's sort of usual for Robinson, Michael, but it's a bit brighter and riper and richer than a lot of Robinsons. So it's pretty interesting. Anne asked how many Shady clone varieties are there. I've got no idea, Anne. The ones that we talk about in Australia, there's a Penfolds clone, which has been here for a long time. There's a couple of UC Davis clones that came out in the 1980s. There's as well as 95 and 96, there's also Mendoza, which came out a little bit later, that is very popular in Western Australia and is being grown more here in Victoria in recent times. Mendoza's the clone that's used a lot in New Zealand as well. So interesting. Okay, everyone's talking about the food. Cotty John says that tasting it after the chili dish makes the Chardonnay taste almost like a Gewürz. Isn't that interesting? And I think Shell has agreed with Kay that it's holding up to the pad thai, not so much with spicy fish cakes. Spicy fish cakes is hard work for any wine, I've got to say. I'm a bit of a fan of sort of a light lager style beer with spicy fish cakes, but I do think that the vinegar dipping sauce can work really well with this wine. They can fight each other, but they'll also accentuate each other if they're both nice acid flavors. Kay's finding, so yes, okay, let's talk about so for those of you who've got your cream cheese and your chili sauce, then have a go. If you haven't had a go yet, have a go. Yeah, mug. Oh no, that's not right. Have a go with the chili sauce and the cream cheese. And the beauty of this combination, and this is a really daggy thing that's a very Australian kind of pre-barbecue snack, your Philly cream cheese with your chili sauce. The chili sauce has got the spice and the sweetness. The cream cheese has got creaminess, but also tangy acidity. And it will be really interesting to see how it goes with the wine. So I'm going to put this in my mouth, and I'm not going to be able to talk for a minute. So bear with. Yummy. So yeah, someone who said this. Emily has said that they're finding the sweet chili sauce seems to bring out the ginger. It brings out the ginger, the spice, that cumin kind of coriander note that I was starting to see in the wine before I tasted it. Sorry, now I've got a little rice puff stuck in my teeth. So, the sweet chili sauce makes the wine taste fruitier, and it makes the chili burn a bit longer, which I think is really interesting. 1998 wants his party back. Absolutely, Andrew. Come on, party like it's 1998. Absolutely. I do think it is one of those. It's a bit like French onion dip, isn't it? It's pretty daggy, but it actually works very well. Craig and his gang have been having it with a brie dip, and the spice flavors coming through. And Peter and Karen were saying 2 chili sauces, one with coconut, and the coconut's great with it, bringing out the creaminess. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think that a lot of people think that a classic Chardonnay like this is not going to coat with spice. It's not going to coat with coconut. I think probably we've discovered that it doesn't really work with fish sauce or fish cakes. It's maybe a little bit too much. But Anne's suggestion of Riesling with spicy fish cakes, particularly maybe a German Riesling with a little bit of residual sugar, I think works really, really well with spicy fish cakes. Yeah, and I think it's quite a fun. The sweet, yeah, Craig, I think a lot of people, and particularly if you're just having the sweet chili without, I don't know if you're having the Philly cream cheese with the sweet chili sauce. I think it will be, the sweet chili sauce on its own really won't do anything for the wine, and the cream cheese on its own won't do huge things for the wine either. But when you blend them together, it's just this weird kind of combo, which sort of works. But for a lot of people will say, I don't really love that, and I like the wine better with a more classic combination. Oh, good. Okay. Stay away from the smoked mussels. Oh, Rob and Deb, smoked mussels are fantastic. I'm not so sure with the Chardonnay. It just depends what you want to see in the wine. If you want to accentuate that kind of that spice character, that ginger character, the spice, yes, Michael, this is 100% malolactic fermentation, or as close to as bears no mind. We don't force it through, but we're pretty confident that it's, at least sort of 97, 98% malo. Yeah. So this is why I was kind of saying that I hope that people haven't gone too mad with, tuna sushi dipped in sweet chili sauce. So that doesn't sound so odd, Anne, because I know I mentioned grilled prawns in the email. I thought prawns or prawn nori roll would work really well, but a tuna sushi also in sweet chili sauce could work really well. I think the problem with spicy fish cakes is that they've got quite a lot of fish sauce in them as well as fish, and fish sauce is really hard to match to wine of any sort. So that's probably what's going on with the fish cakes. They've got that kind of really funky Thai sort of fermented fish kind of a character to them, which is a bit of a challenge for even the most adventurous wine out there. I think coming away from the chili again, I like this wine. I like this wine just on its own personally, but I do think that it's pad thai is made with coconut sugar. Oh, okay, less sweet, very delicious. Sounds great, Kay. As it opens up, we get these little kind of fennel notes, and it becomes a little more savoury as it warms up in the glass as well. And I think that probably to match it well to those kind of Thai food flavours, you don't want it to get too warm either. You want it to be not too cold, not too warm. So getting that temperature right is sometimes a little bit tricky. But yeah, Craig, I think you and I are probably on the same channel with this wine, that it just on its own, it's a beautiful wine for just kind of sitting and swirling and sipping and thinking anyone who's been a bit cheeky and gone mainstream and got some Gruyere as well, don't bother mixing the Gruyere with the sweet chili sauce, because that's going to be hard work for anybody's palate. But the Gruyere on its own with the wine, fabo. So spring rolls will do all right. Deep fried food is amazingly adaptable to white wine. I think, 10% chili sauce free Gruyere. Yeah, good work, Michael. Just scrape it off and lick the chili sauce off, and then have a sip of water, and then it'll be fine. 100% chili-free sauce. Oh, good, chili sauce-free Gruyere. Very good, Michael. Sometimes the classics are really what work. But I do agree, Shell, that deep fried, particularly, I mean, the obvious thing that I could have said with this, if I was not trying to be a little bit controversial, and that the chili sauce suggestion, I think this year I'm trying to push our boundaries a little bit, make us try things that maybe are not our favorite thing in the world, but just kind of make us think a little bit more about how food and wine balance with each other. I'll try and make sure in the future when I'm doing that I give you a big sort of alert. This might not work, so have something else on the side as well. But fish and chips is the classic match to this. And I nearly said in the email, just get some, deep fried calamari rings and some chips from the fish and chippers, and that'll be fabulous. The other thing that I really would love to do is thank you, Craig. When I was on my little road trip to Adelaide a few weeks ago, I came home via the coast, and I went through the town where they have the Big Lobster. So I got to visit one of the big Australian icons, and at the Big Lobster, they made fabulous fish and chips. They also offered fresh lobster sandwiches, and I reckon this wine would be an absolute Kingston. Thank you, Sharpie and Rod. I had it in my mind about half an hour ago, and it just slipped out thinking about all the other things. Kingston, fantastic. And apparently I was told by friends who live in Portland that you should buy your fresh lobster sandwich not from the cafe at the Big Lobster, but at the petrol station across the road. So there's a little bit of insider knowledge for you. This wine would be fabulous with a fresh lobster sandwich. So just keep that in mind if you ever get a chance to crack into a bit of lobster and maybe make yourself a lobster roll and have it with this wine as well. That would be fabulous. But yes, I like controversial as well, Cotty. And I think that if you don't push your boundaries a little bit to try different wines with different foods, then you'll never kind of know what your tolerances are, because different people have different tolerances for what they think works and what doesn't. So it's nice to mix it up every now and again. I'll always try. Oh, Rob, that sounds quite delicious. Not too spicy, but a Thai pork lard would be delicious. I think, what was I going to say? I distracted myself. Don't know what I was going to say, but yes, Chardonnay is surprisingly adaptable, is probably where I was getting to with my little meander about that thing. And I think Craig asked a little while ago about the oak age on this wine, and like the other Chardonnays that we do, this wine spent about 8 months in barrel. It was fermented in barrel, and it was aged in barrel, about 20% new oak. So not a huge amount of new oak, just a little bit of extra spice and structure from the oak for that wine. And I think that, again, that fruit is so vibrant that the oak kind of gets all sucked up by that. And wine is a living thing, Kay. I think that's one of the things that I've kind of, when I was thinking about how we would find enough wine from Moorooduc Estate for us to taste on a regular basis on a Thursday, we don't make 52 different wines here. But coming back to a wine that we've tasted before and tasting it in a different way and with different things, I think is a really valuable and fun thing to do, hopefully. So, I'll always try. That's what I've just realized what I was going to say just before I got distracted. I'm always going to try to make the wine and food match interesting and not horrific. Okay, so that's my promise to you. It will be interesting. It might not always be to everyone's complete taste, and you might sort of think, well, I won't do that again. But I'm going to work very hard to make sure that it's not a traumatic experience for you. Isn't that nice of me? I promise not to traumatize you with wine and food pairing. Shell, I'm glad. See, I've saved you a world of hurt trying to pair wines with fish sauce. Correct. And the other thing that works quite well with fish sauce forward dishes is sake. Unsurprisingly, the Japanese don't do the same thing with fish sauce as the Thais do, but there's a lot of sort of fermented fish kind of flavors, bonito and things like that in Japanese food. And again, that can get a little overwhelming for wine. So sake is often a good alternative. And breathe. So has anyone got any stories to tell me today? You've all been see, this is when Jeff's off on a road trip and not causing trouble, we have a much more serious and sensible conversation about wine and food. I'm just saying. I haven't Hunter Semyon is quite Thai friendly. Kate, can we do grappa? Oh, you are a troublemaker, aren't you? Maybe. The problem with grappa is that it's very good. Grappa is very expensive. So what we might do is we might do grappa in one of our weeks in between a 6-pack, just to kind of have a bit of a talk about it. So I think we can certainly talk about grappa, Kate. But my problem with grappa is that cheap grappa is just awful and expensive grappa is very expensive and quite challenging still. But yes, I will put that on my list. Chardonnay and Kangaroo Tartare, Michael. That sounds very interesting. I've had Chardonnay and Wallaby Tartare, and that was pretty delicious. If someone's making you beautiful Kangaroo Tartare, I don't see any reason not to match it to a high-quality Chardonnay. I think that could work very well. Rod and Sharpie, I think we should do a sake tasting somewhere down the track. I have to do a little bit more research into maybe sourcing sake for us. But yes, I think sake for a break drink, and we can all get in some sushi and sashimi, which will make Shell and Andrew very happy, and hopefully many of you as well. What else? The rice wine vinegar and soy sauce is also good. Good. I'm glad, Peter and Karen, we didn't really talk about that, and I'm glad that you gave it a crack, because I do think that that salty, sour kind of character that you get from the rice wine vinegar and the soy mixed together is very refreshing and actually works really well with this wine, which is also a bit weird and maybe a little counterintuitive, but it does work quite well. Planned pizza party, Rob and Deb. No updates yet. Watch this space. We have just about finalised dates for some events this year. I'm just waiting for Jeff to come back from his road trip to get them up on the Wine Club website. So there will be a vintage event towards the end of March, which won't be a pizza night. It'll be more a barbecue, we think. We're just kind of finalising the details on that. It's going to be quite a small group because we'll be tired and stressed and can't cope with a big function at that time of year. But what we're planning is to get people in, have a bit of walk around the winery, have a taste and a smell of things that are going on, see what happens behind the scenes, and then we'll come into the courtyard, have a glass of wine or two, and a very casual barbecue with the vintage team, and you can ask them questions about how vintage is going and all that kind of thing. So I think that'll be really nice. Paul and Ros would like grappa, as would Kevin. So we've got votes for grappa. We've got votes for sake. Sounds like we almost have some votes for some Semillon. James, the events at Moorooduc obviously are at Moorooduc, but we're trying to get the dates together for you early so that if you want to come down for a weekend, you can sync that with one of our events and sort of make a weekend of it. I am absolutely planning to come to Brisbane and do some events this year. Fingers crossed, touching wood. I'll promise that as long as I can, I will. It won't be until after vintage, but hopefully it'll be, I don't know, probably May, June, July, around that sort of time. So yes. No, Emily, I was going to say that, Kevin, sorry, and Emily, we've got grappa, we've got sake, we've got Kevin's mezcal, which is delicious, and I might need to order some more of that. So we might also sort of have an add-on. If anyone's interested in buying some of Kevin's mezcal, we might see if we can make that a possibility with the next box of Drinks with Kate wine. The next box of Drinks with Kate wine is coming together very nicely, and I've got a little Italian Pinot Grigio guest that is joining us, so that will be fun. East Coast road trip, absolutely, Craig. I think that sounds fantastic. I will also be coming to Sydney this year. I'm finally getting over my getting on an aeroplane phobia and getting myself organised to do a little bit more of that. We just needed to get the Omicron kind of variant out of the way. Craig, absolutely more popcorn. We have just taken delivery, I think, of a new box of popcorn. So if you, what's the best thing to do? If you send me an email, or if with the next box of wine or your next order, just pop a little note in the notes area saying that you want some popcorn and can we please call you and get that sorted out. And you can tell us how much popcorn you want and we can take the payment over the phone and do it all old school. One day there'll be popcorn on the website. I don't know if Jeff's still watching. The problem with popcorn on the website is that it needs to be an add-on for people rather than, because we can't really mail out single corn cobs. So we're just trying to work out how to do that. James, interesting question. Anyone stand up for my South Australia trip? So while I was in South Australia, I didn't get a chance to taste a lot of South Australian wine because most of the time I was there, I was teaching MW students how to pass their MW exam. So it was pretty full on. But I have to say, we went to Yangara, which is, I love Pete Fraser's wines. I think he's a genius with Ganache particularly. He's very passionate about Ganache from the Southern Rhone. They grow a lot of Ganache, and he makes some really beautiful Ganache there. He's also got some Grenache Blanc that he planted a few years ago. He's got his first Grenache Blanc, which has been fermented in a concrete egg. We talked about eggs last week. We're not going to go back into that again. But this is what's got me interested in concrete eggs, because the wine that he's made, both the white Grenache and the red Grenache fermented in the egg, it's called something like Ovatello, is delicious wine. And I can't tell you how much the deliciousness comes from the fermentation vessel and how much it just comes from really delicious fruit. But yeah, Michael, I agree. Yangara's wines are fabulous. Ovatello, thank you, Michael. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wines. If you haven't tasted them, then get onto them. What does white Grenache taste like? So the one that Pete's made is quite restrained. There's a bit of honey and a little bit of kind of maybe pear fruit, but not like an Italian wine. There's sort of honey and some minerals, and it's quite restrained. It's got really beautiful sort of silky, slippery texture to it, and really lovely it's more about the savouriness and about the texture and about the palate weight than fruit flavours. So I know that's a terrible description, but quite difficult to describe, but really lovely, lovely and sort of quite different from a lot of things that we usually get to drink. Polly's getting a little bit sick of our conversation now, which is very rude of her. She's actually barking at some creatures outside, but that's Paul. Come here and say hello to people. No? Okay. Zach and Jack, you found some DBC Pinot Youngs in Camberwell. Fantastic. That's great. Michael, see you later. Thank you, Shelf. I love my shirt too. It's a little, I can't even remember where I bought it from. I bought it in Sydney last time. Hello, Eric. Lovely to see you. We're going to finish up. I haven't checked what we're drinking next week, though. Does anybody know? I'll send you an email on Monday. I'll try very hard to do it on Monday this next week. I'll send you an email. I can't remember what we're tasting next week, but it'll be awesome. I'll send you an email with all the instructions next week. Lovely to see you. Now, Polly, you're making all the dogs bark in everybody's houses. Hello, Daisy. See you later, Sharpie and Rod. See you, Karen. See you, everybody. See you next week. Thanks very much. Thank you very much for joining. Cheers.